Welcome to the Influence and Impact Summit presented by Platform University.
Know that your story matters and that you have a message that the world needs to hear.
You can get your message to the end user now so much easier.
It can't just be about you. Influence is about others.
And again, it all goes down to serving your audience and making a true, real connection with them.
Hi, I'm Michael Hyatt. Welcome to the Influence and Impact Summit presented by Platform University. I'm here with my good buddy, Lewis Howes. In case you don't know Lewis, he's a coach. He's an online marketing expert. He's really one of the world's leading experts on webinars. He's taught me a ton about him. He's got one of the most popular business podcasts on the internet called School of Greatness, which has had over 9 million downloads. And he's just come out with a new book called School of Greatness. So, Lewis, welcome to the summit. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped for this.
Yeah, me too. Well, I've invited Lewis here today to share some of his insights about how to increase your influence and how to have more impact. And he's got an amazing story. But before we get into that, Lewis, I'd love for you just to start by describing what it is you do and what you love most about what you do today.
Well, I would say that I live my dreams, and I pursue my dreams with 100% passion. I believe that's what we're all born to do, is to pursue our dreams and to figure out what they are, what our gifts and talents are, make the most of them, and then impact the maximum amount of people in the world with our talents and gifts. So I do that through a number of different channels. I teach a lot of people how to build a business around their passion, around their dreams, because I feel like when we live our dreams and we make money around it, that's the most fulfilled lifestyle we can have. So that's what I do, and I use it through a number of mechanisms similar to what you do, through online marketing, online courses, podcasts, books, speaking, coaching. I mean, we pretty much do all the similar things in a different format, and that's what I do.
Fantastic. Okay, so it wasn't all roses and spice for you. You weren't always living your dreams. Not very long ago, you were on a couch. So I want you just to go back to the very beginning, kind of your history playing football, and what led you up to this point?
So I was on my sister's couch. I got injured playing professional football, and I never had a backup plan. My only dream was to play professional sports, and I thought I'd play for a number of years, make enough money to figure out what I was going to do next. And instead, I got injured in my rookie season, had to sleep on my sister's couch for the next year and a half, had surgery, and was in a cast for 6 months. And I really didn't know what I was going to do because I didn't have this backup plan. So for me, it all happened by accident because I just started reaching out to mentors to look for guidance on what they did when they were in a similar situation. And a lot of them at the time were saying, you should get online. The social media world is blowing up. Why don't you check out LinkedIn and some other sites to see if there's opportunities. So I spent all my days following their instructions, spending time on LinkedIn, building relationships, generating connections with some of the biggest CEOs and influencers that I could reach out to on LinkedIn. And that's how I got started, was just by connecting with powerful influencers first and seeing where I could develop skills around those connections in the online marketing world. And LinkedIn was powerful for me early on, teaching other people how to use it, then webinars, then people just kept asking for more and more, and I started to sharpen skills in other areas and give people the information they were asking for.
Fantastic. I love that story because I think sometimes people look at a guy like you and they think, well, Lewis is handsome, he's a former professional football player. This probably just happened overnight for him. But it didn't. And
it's been an 8-year journey.
Yeah, 8-year overnight success.
Exactly.
My guess is that you probably, like most of us, struggled with doubts and insecurities early on. What would you say to the person that's listening to this that yearns for more impact, more influence, but they really wonder, do they have anything to say? Even if they do, will the world listen? And maybe they're just afraid. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, it's great because I lived in a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, and a lot of uncertainty because I was broke. My dad had just gotten into a really bad car accident, which a lot of people don't know about. But 10 years ago, he got in a really bad car accident where he was in a coma for 3 months. We didn't know if he was going to make it or not, really bad head trauma. And so he wasn't really there to support me. I didn't really have a father to be, you know, a support system and to give me the advice and guidance I really needed. So I was trying to figure out, you know, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? My dad's really not around. He's alive, but he's not really there. You know, I don't have any money. I'm broke. And what I started attaching to was these little wins. So I was like, okay, I gave myself little goals, and you have a great program on Best Year Ever, which is all about goal setting. But I attached myself to little goals and little wins. So I was like, okay, I want to learn how to do public speaking, but I'm terrified. I doubt myself. I have all this uncertainty. But I knew I had to throw myself and immerse myself into public speaking if I wanted to overcome the fear and at least be able to speak with some confidence. So I found a Toastmasters group. I reached out to a mentor and said, what's the best way to do this? He said, go to Toastmasters. I followed the instructions, and I went every week for a year. And I gave myself little goals. I was like, okay, I'm going to prepare for the next 5-minute speech. And a 5-minute speech seemed terrifying for me. But for weeks, I would prepare for this 1 5-minute speech. And afterwards, I would mess up a bunch, and I felt horrible about it, and I knew I sucked. But I was like, okay, I completed the goal I set out to do. Now what's my next 5-minute speech? So I would just give myself these little goals every single week to build my skill set, my tool belt. Yeah. I think the more tools we have around our waist, we build that confidence where we can influence and impact others. When we don't have the tool belt, it's hard to feel confident. Mm-hmm. Or if we have a tool belt with no tools in it, that's even worse. So you got to start building. You got to get a hammer. Then you got to get a screwdriver. Then you got to get a tape measure, and you got to get a nail clipper or whatever it is, and you got to get the pocket knife. You got to get all these tools so you can whip it out and impact people anytime you see them. Anytime you connect with a person, you have the tool to relate to that human being. You have the tool to support them. You have the tool to connect them with someone else that they really want to connect with. But if you're not doing the work to build that skill set, which is going to add tools to your tool belt, it's going to be hard to impact the world. And it's not going to happen overnight. You got to look at this as a journey, you know, over years. Obviously, we all want to get more success right now, and you can get some instant results, but you've got to do a lot of work early on for that to happen.
Okay, so here's the big takeaway I just took from that. That was fabulous. So it's easy to see all the big wins because we're all public with our big wins. What people often don't see is the work that leads up to those big wins, and it's a whole bunch of little wins that build our confidence and lead to that big win. So thank you for that. That is awesome. Yeah. Slightly different question. As you look back over your 8-year career in this online space, were there any kind of inflection points where your growth just went to the next level? You know, maybe it was a new technology you employed, maybe it was a new strategy that you began using, a different kind of content. What were those 2 or 3 or 4 inflection points that really took you to the next level?
That's interesting. I would really only say there's been one major turning point, and that's when I did my first webinar. I made $6,200, and before that, I maybe was making $2,000 to $3,000 a month, working so hard every single day, promoting events and doing like one-on-one type of coaching on LinkedIn, and was just working constantly to make that $2,000 to $3,000. But I did my first webinar in May, I believe it was, of 2009. And I made $6,200 in an hour, and that was the eye-opener for me. It was a way to really open me up and say, wow, I can impact and influence people, a broader audience of people in a short amount of time, as opposed to a broader audience or a lesser audience in more time. And that's when everything shifted. I said, okay, this is something that's working. It was positive feedback that said, okay, this works. How can I maximize this to make it work over and over? And I've been doing that for 6 years, that the webinar kind of industry. I've been in that world for 6 years, and it continues to just grow and grow and grow. So it's not like it just continues to grow at that pace as opposed to like another inflection point where it's like a whole new level. I think, I guess I take that back. When I launched the podcast, that started to, almost 3 years ago, that started to resonate and connect with a broader audience, a whole different type of audience, where I saw the impact in people's lives, and I know you get this as well with your podcast. So it was a different type of transformation for people than just coming on a webinar. It was really a powerful thing, and I know your podcast is probably, what would you say, it's one of the top 3 to 5 things that's made a big impact for you as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So webinars and then the podcast, and I'm probably going to say the third thing will be my book when it comes out. I can only imagine the type of opportunities and things that'll come from that piece of work.
Yeah, I'll just say to you, I think I said this to you when you were in Nashville earlier this week, but there's kind of like before you publish the book, and then there's after you publish the book, because it does so much for your career and for your influence
Right.
and for your impact. Speaking of the book, you've done it kind of interesting way. Like most people I talk to, most people in author world, they write the book and then they suddenly realize, oh my gosh, I don't have a platform.
Right.
And you've done it really the reverse. Why did you wait as long as you did to write a book?
You know, I wrote a couple of smaller niche books. I wrote a book about LinkedIn, and then I wrote a book about webinars to build my expertise in those categories. But they weren't like big money makers or big, brand builders to the world for me. It was more of like, let's build my brand in this specific area, to help me increase sales essentially for my products. But I waited, because I didn't feel like I had enough of the credibility I wanted to back up a book of this stature. And so I waited because I wanted to have the results already proven, as opposed to just preaching something about strategy that I haven't done or something that I believe in, but that I don't have the results to back it up. So I felt like this was just the right time, and it just made sense now as opposed to coming out with something before.
So for you, what possibilities do you think the book will open, or what are you hoping is going to happen as a result of the book being out there?
I mean, so much has already happened because of my marketing of the book and promoting it over the last few months. I'm getting a lot of TV offers. It was just after I left Nashville to see you, I went to New York on a flight and drove upstate New York to do a pilot for the History Channel. And it was down to me and 2 other potential hosts. I'm supposed to find out this week if I got the spot. But it could be a huge opportunity to reach more people and inspire and influence and impact more people with a TV show. So the book, the podcast, has been getting me these opportunities online. People are finding me through my podcast, these production companies, these TV networks, and reaching out and saying, you'd be a great host. Let's do some Skype interviews. Let's do a pilot. I don't think I would get those opportunities without having the platform, without having the reach that I already have, without having a podcast where people can listen and tune into and hear how I communicate or how I work with guests. And also, it just gives you more credibility, to be in the top 100 on iTunes consistently like we are. It helps for credibility, and it says, if they're good enough for that, maybe they'll be good enough for our press or this opportunity. So the book and the podcast are combining, doing a lot for me. People Magazine reached out to me. I think I mentioned this to you the other day when I was with you. They reached out and came and did a full 3-hour video shoot at my place. And, they found me through the online stuff that I've been putting out there. I've got a lot of opportunities just by writing for Entrepreneur.com. I've been writing for them for 2.5 years. And I get a bunch of opportunities that come that way. So, it's a combination of all these things. By building my reach online through the podcast, through writing on different sites, through the book, I'm now getting more mainstream attention, which for me is going to broaden my reach, broaden my audience, and impact more people.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's another big takeaway, too. I think people have no idea what getting a platform and some visibility can do for them. And I think it's easy. Maybe this is the way God set it up, but a lot of people get discouraged and quit right before they hit that inflection point, right before they get that book offer, right before they could get that breakthrough. Yeah. And that's why I think, and I know you believe this too, Lewis, is that perseverance is such an important quality in success. Mm-hmm. Just hanging in there, and I've watched you do that. And another thing I was going to ask about that's been interesting about you, and it's a little bit of a parallel with me as well, but you were kind of the LinkedIn guy for a while, then the webinar guy, and then you moved into this broader area of personal development with the School of Greatness, which I really admire. You are a phenomenal interviewer. I've been on your show a couple times, and I always come away thinking, man, he is such a good interviewer.
Thank you. I learned from you.
But in terms of personal development, how is that different for you, talking about that kind of topic, than being the webinar guy or the LinkedIn guy?
For me, it's a couple of different things. One, I constantly want to grow and improve myself, and I feel like talking about LinkedIn for 3 or 4 years, it's like, okay, I've kind of mastered that, and I've done everything I need to say and do there, and it's just, I didn't feel like I was growing more by teaching the same thing. When I went on to webinars, I'm still teaching webinars. It's because it's something I'm passionate about, and I still love it, and I think there's a big need for it. But it's not as challenging for me anymore as it was for the last few years. So I wanted to expand and grow my reach from just talking to only entrepreneurs who are only looking to build their audience and generate sales through webinars to people who aren't entrepreneurs, people who, who are stay-at-home moms that just want to live a greater life and want to feel a deeper impact in their life and deeper connection. And so for me, that's why I started the School of Greatness podcast, and I'm doing the work on this with the book, because I want to continue to grow and become a better man in the world. I feel like I have a long way to get to where I want to be. I make a lot of mistakes. I'm constantly discovering new things about myself and seeing how I can be in higher integrity and a better leader and a more loving person to my team and my family and loved ones and strangers, and how can I be more loving in the world and impact people. So for me, that's the path I'm on now, because it's inspiring, it's interesting for me, it's creative, and I feel like it's going to have the biggest impact that I can give to the world by talking about these topics, as opposed to LinkedIn or webinars or just business. It's more fun and enjoyable for me.
Boy, here's another powerful takeaway I see here, is that I think sometimes people, when they're trying to find a topic or a category that they can speak to, they want to survey the market, and I really believe in that, and I teach it. But what people often forget is the compass that we have within. What are we passionate about? And I think that's sometimes the map to buried treasure.
Right.
And I try to listen to myself, too. What do I find interesting? Because at the end of the day, if I'm not passionate, I'm not going to sustain my enthusiasm for that category, and I'm going to be on to the next thing.
Exactly.
So I love that you've done that, and I love that you're following your passion. And I also think this is going to be a much broader, deeper impact for you. And not taking anything away from, I've learned so much from you about webinars, and I don't really do LinkedIn, but, we connected after that.
Yeah.
But I think this personal development area for you is going to be huge.
Thanks. Me too. I'm excited about it. And it's a journey, It doesn't have to be huge right now, but it's a constant journey. It's been 8 years to kind of grow to get to the place where I need to be right now for this to come out, but it's also what's going to happen in the next 8 to 10 years and beyond. It's going to continue to be new levels every single month and year. And so I look at it as the journey and enjoying every aspect of it. I'm in the grind mode right now for marketing and for doing book stuff. And some days I'm like, this is a little exhausting. It's a lot of work. But I'm like, gosh, I'm so blessed and grateful that I'm exhausted, because look at the opportunity that I get to do. I get to, oh my gosh, I have to do more interviews. Like, is that such a bad thing? No, it's like the people want to listen and have me on their shows, and I get to talk about my message. This is the dream, so I get to appreciate every step of the way, and this is just part of the process. A couple-month window where you got to work really hard, more than other months.
Yep.
And you're not going to have a book coming out every month. Usually every few years if you're lucky. So really embracing this and being grateful for it, and just soaking in every moment of it. I mean, I'm so grateful to just be able to do this right now, because it's like, wow, that you think I have enough impact and influence to come on your summit. It's a pleasure and an honor. And it's, 5-6 years ago, I wouldn't have had this opportunity. So it's very, very cool.
That's really cool. So if you had the luxury of going back and advising yourself back when you were starting, but knowing what you know now, because if you're like me, and I know you are, I went down a lot of dead ends. I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of things I should have never tried. Mm-hmm. But I could have done what I've done so far a lot faster if I had the advantage of knowledge. So to give the people that are listening to this the advantage of your experience, what would you say to people that are just starting out, who really want to increase their influence, who really want to, have a bigger impact in the world? What would you say to them? What are the first, second, third things that they need to pay attention to?
Here's the three things that I'm going to say three things that came to mind, but I'm going to say one of them first. That's like an extra thing that kind of ties in with one of them. I look at a guy like Charlie Hone, who may not be on people's radar right now, but for a couple of years, he was the assistant to Tim Ferriss. And he helped him with a couple of his book launches. He also worked with Ramit Sethi. He also worked with Seth Godin, and kind of like was an apprentice to all these big influential individuals when he was 23 or something, or 24. And he learned so much by working for essentially like 6 months at a time with these influencers and authors. Then he worked longer with Tim and helped him run his events and different things. He learned so much that he had access to all the major influencers in the world and had all these tools in his tool belt within a few years, quickly, by working with these influencers. So what I would say is if you're really young, if you're like 22, 25 range, and you have no skills really that you think you could use, and you know it's going to take some time, I would associate yourself or connect with someone who's already really influential and basically be there to serve them for whatever they need for a period of time for free. If you can get paid, cool, but like just be there to soak it up, and that's your master's program. That's one.
That, by the way, is awesome. Nobody has
Yeah.
said that I've interviewed,
Really?
and that is a great tip. That's how it was done anciently, right?
Yeah, I think like, a lot of people think they need to go to business school or get a master's or something, but I'm like, I would rather put that $100,000 for 2 years. I would pay, if I was like 22, I would have rather take $10,000 a year and pay an influencer to essentially work for them for free. I would have done that much rather than going to school for $40,000 or $50,000 a year to get a master's program. I would have paid someone and say, hey, essentially, I want to work for you for free. And I'm going to pay you to work for you for free. That would get my interest. If someone said that to me, I would be like, this person's serious. This person's for real. If they're willing to pay me to work for me, I'm going to give them a lot more of my time and energy, as opposed to just someone that says, hey, can I help you for free? And can I learn from you and this and that? We don't have the time to just have someone come on board who we need to train and then they're going to leave. If someone says, I'll give you 6 months to a year and I'll pay you 10 to 20 grand, I'm going to probably invest in that person and give them a ton of work and let them get the inside of how I think, work with my team, connect them with other influencers, and make the most of their time for them. So that's one thing I would do. The second thing, I would really connect with mentors. This is a similar thing to what I'm just saying, but I would connect with a number of mentors early on because that's what I did and was very helpful for me. So kind of having an own personal advisory board. I would find people in different industries to advise you once a month or something where you could reach out to them once a month and ask them for feedback and have them give you challenges. Okay, here's my goal right now. I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z in the next 6 months. What can I do this month to help me get there? And don't take a lot of their time. Just say, okay, here's your feedback for what you did in the last month. Here's my challenge for you for this next month. I want you to join Toastmasters. I want you to do this. I want you to do X, Y, and Z. So constantly ask for feedback and have people challenge you for a month at a time to give you something to work on. Because we don't know what we need to work on when we're just starting out. We're just like, what do we do? So ask experts to give you feedback and challenges to work on. And the final thing that I would say, that these were the three most important things, is that I wish I would have done more of back when I was 24, is really work on my emotional fitness and emotional intelligence. I believe that if I had better emotional fitness and intelligence, understanding my emotions when things happening and understanding other people's emotions when things happened, I would have been able to move through situations with much more leadership, poise, and grace, as opposed to reacting or getting upset or letting things bother me for weeks or months, or just being frustrated that something didn't happen and letting it hold me back.
Yeah.
I think there was so much wasted energy and emotion from not being emotionally fit and intelligent. And if I could do it all over again, I would have I would have read books, had someone coach me. I would have gone to workshops about emotional intelligence to learn how to be a better leader, because great leaders are emotionally fit and can navigate their emotions and understand and react to in appropriate ways to other people's emotions in any situation with ease, and that's why they're great leaders.
That is phenomenal advice. And I think particularly for entrepreneurs or people that want to have more influence, because you can be so derailed by your emotions. And I know so many people that don't achieve what they could achieve because they think that somehow they got to wait till they emotionally feel like doing something,
right?
Not realizing it's usually the other way around, that the emotions follow doing the right thing.
Exactly. I mean, listen, I could give strategies and tactics like the first thing I would do is build an email list and start doing webinars, but, you know, that's not going to matter if you don't know how to manage your emotions, if you're not getting the right feedback, if you don't have the connections to do with it. So, yes, those things are important if you're like building an online business, but I think the skill set of building yourself as a better human being is the most important thing, so that you know what to do when you have the influence and the impact. Because if I got a bunch of money when I was 24, I wouldn't have known what to do with it because I wasn't ready for it. Yeah. So if I had the email list and I was selling and I'm making $100,000 a month or something, I probably would have blown it. I wouldn't have saved it the right way. I wouldn't have invested it. I wouldn't have known what to do. So I think it's a natural progression over time of, you know, money, influence, and impact comes to you when you're ready for it.
Yes.
And you know, one of my mentors said that, you know, money will come to you when you're ready for it, when I was broke and trying to figure things out. And I was like, but I'm really ready for it. Like, I could use the money right now. And he was like, well, it'll come to you when you're really ready for it. And I didn't know what he meant by that until it started to come in. And I was like, oh, yeah, a couple of years ago, I wasn't ready for this. Yes. And I wasn't ready for the attention. You know, I wanted people to reach out and ask me for, you know, my opinion, but I wasn't really ready to give it to them in a powerful way where I could still be humble and make the most of it for both parties. So I think that's something to take into account.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to summarize that because it was powerful. Number one, you said that you would try to find somebody that you could be an apprentice to, somebody that you could just learn from, even if you had to pay them.
Even if you had to, and I would offer paying them.
Yeah, I love that. That would totally get my attention.
Right.
Number two, you said you would really listen to mentors, have some mentors in your life that could advise you. And you didn't say this, but just to augment that, you can either learn on your own experience or you could learn from other people's experience.
Yes.
And the third thing, which is really interesting too, because I don't think anybody shared these three items, is that you'd really focus on becoming more emotionally fit. Because emotions have so much to do with our success, and they're easily disregarded. Yeah. But I think that's really smart. You would become a better man, really, so that you could have the kind of influence and the kind of impact that you know you're capable of. But it's not just strategies and techniques. It's an extension of who you are as a person.
It's not about, exactly, it's not about things we acquire. It's who we become and who we are being that impacts and influences people in the world. You know, just acquiring numbers on a podcast or getting sales for a book doesn't matter if my way of being isn't powerful in the process as well. It's going to be wasted energy. So I think that's something I've just learned in the last few years that I'm still learning. You know, I'm still not where I want to be. I look at you as the real example of that in our industry, as someone to follow and learn from. So for me, it's like, you know, it's a constant journey and process of discovery, challenging myself to be more compassionate and understanding of myself and my emotions and other people's emotions, as opposed to be reacting in whatever way I want to react, because I'm not in a good relationship with the emotional fitness.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Louis, thanks for coming to the summit. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. You inspired me. I know you've inspired the people that are listening to this, and you've given us some real takeaway too. So thanks so much for that. And for those of you that are watching, I want to encourage you to do two things. Go to louishowes.com and connect with Louis. And then secondly, go to Amazon and buy his book or pre-order it whenever you're listening to this. School of Greatness is the title. Phenomenal book. There it is right there. I endorsed it, had the privilege of endorsing it.
Yep.
And there's probably somebody that as you were listening to this, you thought, I've got a friend that needs to hear this, or I've got a friend that I know would connect with Louis. So while there's still time on the clock and this summit is still available, I'd love for you to share this in social media, to the people that you have on email, just to your friends. We'd love to invite them into this process too. So thanks for listening. Lewis, again, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome to the Influence and Impact Summit presented by Platform University.
Know that your story matters and that you have a message that the world needs to hear.
You can get your message to the end user now so much easier.
It can't just be about you. Influence is about others.
And again, it all goes down to serving your audience and making a true, real connection with them.